And we are going to call this meeting of the 27th of May 2025 to order. It's a regular council meeting. We will start with a land acknowledgement. The Town of Cardston acknowledges that we are located on traditional Blackfoot Confederacy territory. We have an agenda, we have a delegation also, and let's start with the agenda. Councillor Jensen.
We need to make some additions to the agenda with the CPO's report, and in the closed meeting, the committee, library committee member discussion.
We have committee members, it's on there.
Yeah,
It's on
library
there.
thing's
What
on
about the CPO report?
it's on
They
there.
added one where they listed their names.
Councillor, it goes under committee members, doesn't make no difference.
Yeah.
It will go under that,
Okay.
yeah.
And you still need to add CPO reports.
It's on
But
there.
it is on the electronic version.
Yep.
Not on mine.
Yeah.
Must not
Committee
be.
other reports. It's there anyhow. Right there. It's not on yours, you're right.
Where's CPO?
CAO and CPO,
CPO.
they're on mine right there, so I don't know what happened, but
This is Leor's report.
that's correct. There's a CAO and a CPO. There you go.
Okay, we need a motion to adopt the agenda as given.
I make a motion to adopt the agenda this day, the 27th
Seventh.
of May.
Thank you. But I appreciate your comment, Councillor, because I didn't have them on my version either. So all in favor? Thank you. All right. Welcome, Councillor Kenley.
Thank you.
We have minutes of the 13th of May that need to be approved. Councillor Burton,
I move to approve the minutes of May 13th.
all in favor? Thank you. All right. We have a delegation. We have Sergeant Bob Wright that is right there ready for us in this spiffy suit.
I want to say I got dressed up just for you this evening, but
Thank you.
I may have double booked myself. I appreciate Mayor and Council giving me an opportunity to speak this evening. I think everybody's got the report in front of them. First off, just as we approach summer here, we're dealing with wildfire deployments. We're currently dealing with G7 deployments right now. We will go through a bit of a staffing rotation this summer, as I think I alluded in the past. I've got two members. One just got his notice to move today, but unfortunately I also just punted him out to the G7, so he's not really going to be able to do anything with that until after the 18th of June when he gets back. So potentially by September, we could lose two, gain one. So we'll still have one hard vacancy, and we'll just be waiting for either a recruit or a lateral to come in and fill that position. So both the members have served. I think one guy's here going on 6-7 years, and then Eddie's just wrapping up 4 or 5. So they're just this is their first post for both. So it's just part of the natural order of what we do. And with that, again, like I'm only losing one to G7. I think I'm the only guy on call for the fire rotations as of June. As we're seeing, I think Pelican Narrows got evacuated over in Saskatchewan. Is it Swan Hills? Yeah, like outside of Slave Lake. Like I think they're on notice, or did they actually get evacuated? They got evacuated, right? So we're all kind of waiting to see what kind of resources this is going to require, and keeping in mind, like we're still in May right now, so we could have a significantly busy fire season. With that, we're by no means gonna like drain, the resources here locally. We just won't do that, but we may lose some bodies taxing the resources that we have locally. So, but I'll certainly update council through the CAO if something like that is going to happen. Just with our, how we finished up in Q4 there, all the policing priorities that we had set last year as far as traffic safety, impaired driving, enforcement on Traffic Safety Act, crime reduction, drug interdiction activities, rural patrols, community engagement, police visibility, town halls, school visits, and community presentations. All that stuff was done. It was complete. With the exception of the numbers for drug interdiction activities, weren't quite as high as we wanted. What we found is the more we interacted, the less instances that were occurring. So it was a bit of a win, but we just got maybe a bit lofty with the numbers we wanted there. And I'll talk a bit more about that when I just go over next year's priorities as well. One of the major, let me skip that, I'll save that for a second here. Talk about staffing, we're good there. You'll see on the statistical chart there, all the numbers over the 5-year are good. Like we're wavering in some by maybe 0.3. The ones that you see, maybe they're up or down 100%. It's like we went from 0 to 1 or from 1 to 2, something like that. So I've got no major concerns. Again, the overall crime trend, if you look from 2021 to 2025 per year, is down. So that's a number we're going to continue to strive. Like I think some of the gains in the last 5 years are pretty significant, and at some point we're going to hit a plateau. Like we're not going to be able to report, 15 crime reduction or 15% reduction in crime again this year, over and over and over. I think at some point we're going to hit a plateau. There's
Bob, under the category total property.
property.
Can you tell me a little bit, what is mischief bracket other?
Total property, just above, total persons crimes.
Because that is the one that has a trend that is upward.
So,
the 5
and a
years.
lot of that can be how we charge. So mischief can be yelling, screaming, swearing in
Okay,
public,
all
like a
right.
disruption
Okay.
to the public in any sense. Sometimes what we'll do is, there's provincial statute to deal with somebody who's intoxicated.
Okay.
But if we don't want to use that provincial statute for one reason or the other, and we want to go criminal because the extent of the violation, we charge criminally under mischief, right? Just
Get you. Thank you.
Similar type question on assaults. So in 2025, you're reporting 37. That's year to date?
Sorry, just give me a second, Counselor, to find that.
It's in the first category, mid of the pack.
Oh, assaults here. Okay, sorry. What year, sorry?
2025, the number 37.
Correct.
That's the total to date?
That's total to date.
Okay, so 37.
No, sorry, not total to date. So we run April to April. So
It's from last
I
year.
think they would have tabulated that as part of the 2024 numbers. So sorry, it's a little misleading when it's showing it by year there. They're actually overlapping years.
That is
If
government
it
year.
is
Yeah.
37 and it's only a third of the way through the year.
No, it's
is there a-
government
Is
year.
there a reason why that would be trending upwards?
No, that would be a big surprise, I think, if, I'd be scratching my head as well. Sorry, maybe I'll get them to clarify when they print these reports for me. It's not necessarily encompassing all of 2021. It's actually a split from 2020, 2021, because we're doing the government year end.
Grabbed my attention there as to
Yeah.
why would this be?
No, that is high.
Okay.
And again, if you see the year-over-year change, right, that's 48% increase from the year previous. However, overall, in that 5-year trend, we're looking at 3%. So what happens is sometimes we get a hold of the guy, he's got a lengthy criminal record, we eventually get him remanded, and he goes away for a year, that stat drops. He comes back out, runs amok in the community, bangs up 3 or 4 guys, and the stat bumps right back up where it was the year before.
This would include domestics and spousal.
It would, yeah.
Thank you.
So with that, if you look at the bottom line there, it's the second page in black, says total criminal code, where it says again, the 5-year trend is down 15. We are up 5 year over year from last year, but again, that could be one person having one bad day. So I'm not too concerned about those numbers at this time, but we're certainly alive and aware to the fact of where they are. For this year's annual performance plan, everything that we talked about previous, we carried the vast majority of it over. Foot patrols on the downtown core, we kind of wrapped that in with some of the drug interdiction activities because that's where we're doing all the drug interdiction activities anyway for the town of Cardston. So we're just going to be reporting in with one number for that. Rural patrols for some of our smaller communities. As far as traffic goes, I've got a concern about over-enforcement in the area. And we had some high numbers in the last 4 years because it was just us doing that. And now we're seeing more, the Alberta Sheriffs come into town, Ridge Regional Bylaw. And so the concern is we start to overforce, we start to overtax needlessly. So with that, we have all these partner agencies in the area operating. And just for the record, they're not working in conjunction with us. It's not like we get together with these agencies or they tell us when they're in town or when they're in our jurisdictions. They're just kind of there doing their own thing under their own mandate. So it's not a joint force operation with the RCMP by any means. I've cut the number of tickets that we're going to write in the county in half. Like that's just kind of where the target will be for the year. Again, just because there's just a fear that it's going to be overtaxing and over-enforced in the area. So, but what you will see more of is roadside screening. So you expect that just to be more commonplace. Nothing personal, but if you get pulled over behind and you're behind the wheel of a motor vehicle, you should expect a breath test. We're just getting more impaired, and we're just getting them more unusual hours. Like Sunday morning, we ripped somebody out of the driver's seat up at the UFA gas pumps here, and they're on their third IRS. They've disabled the interlock system, and right. So we're just gonna up more of those roadside screenings. So.
Councillor Brown, Councillor Court.
So you brought up a great question, but I'm wondering, so you said essentially we're double dipping in the same area in regards to ticketing. Why don't we have an open dialogue with the sheriffs? And when I say we, I mean RCMPs. And is that something that as a municipality we should send a letter to? Because I feel like it's pointless. Like, I feel like we should all be on the same page within our small communities.
Right. I think if we saw cause and effect in the sense that, we've got 3 agencies, here now, and with 3 agencies enforcing the Traffic Safety Act and all that encompasses that, now we have no impairs, no collisions, no speeding. Well, then maybe it's like, okay, well, we're on to something, but we're not seeing that, right? So we're taxing more people. I heard this morning that, somebody got a ticket for a dog in the back of the vehicle, right? Flat deck farm truck, Coley's riding in the back. Like it's just what happens in small town Alberta, right? Some guy coming out of Waterton gets a ticket for not having rubber on the brake pedal. Like it's just, somebody's around a dodal and it just, yeah. So why are we not working with them? I don't have a good answer for you. We don't typically, when we coordinate with traffic, we coordinate with the RCMP traffic services. And the RCMP traffic service and the sheriffs for the longest time were embedded in the same office in Coaldale, and then there was a divorce, and the Coaldale went to Lethbridge. They didn't want them in the same office as the RCMP for whatever reason. I don't know all the ins and outs. That's probably a good question for maybe the Minister of Justice, Mike Ellis. I don't know all the ins and outs there. But there has been no constructive dialogue as to, do we want to get together and do a joint force operation on speed or on traffic? And that could be because of mandates, right? Like we just can't plan for, 2 o'clock on a Tuesday, we're going to do this. Because 2 o'clock on a Tuesday, we're wrestling with whoever downtown, or we're dealing with a domestic or a collision or whatever, school talks.
It's frustrating when we know we can work so well with the RCMP and our bylaw officer. Like there have been many times where y'all have worked together and it's been fantastic having that open dialogue. So for me, it's just a little frustrating that we're all, if our goal is all the same, shouldn't we be trying to meet halfway on it. So
And
it sounds like the ball's in our court. We need to.
Well, I think some of it too is that we've increased the presence along the border, or the Alberta government has.
Yes.
And so fine. But now what you see is all these people who don't live in the area who are saying like, there's your assignment, go to it, drive in and out of the area on a daily basis. But let's face it, there's not a whole lot going on at the border, right?
Right.
And so all of a sudden we got all these law enforcement officers driving around with not a whole lot to do. And, like really the Alberta Sheriff mandate for a long time was the Traffic Safety Act, right? Like that's what they're there for. And so they, some are just reverting back to that. That's what they know. That's what they know to enforce and
Thank you.
where they go.
It's a very good point, Councillor.
Oh.
That's maybe something we can do about it.
The previous mayor, not this one.
Yeah.
Invited the head of the sheriff's department to never come into town again. So I don't know if that can happen or not. Just a question about Ridge Regional. Who's contracting them? I understand they're Raymond in the county of Warner, but they have jurisdiction outside of that.
They did, so
I saw them pull one, somebody over up,
they had a contract in Hill Spring, and my understanding that's like expiring today, if not tomorrow, like very quickly. They were kind of in and they said, no, we're out.
and they ticket people on the highways.
Yeah, they've got a mandate as a provincial police officer. I say mandate, that they have that authority that they can, right? If they see an
As I saw
offense,
one
they
pull over there,
can ticket.
west of McGrath, I'm thinking,
Yeah.
strange.
Yeah, so there's a lot of different vehicles all of a sudden now and a lot of different flags that are on the highways. So unless council wants to see something different within the community, I think that's the direction like us as the RCMP are going to take right now. Like just, we're going to continue to penalize the most egregious offenders, right? Like no insurance, no license, excessive speed, dangerous driving and impaired driving. And that'll be our wheelhouse for the moment. I'm not letting anybody write tickets for
I think it's fair
brake pedals.
enough. I don't think people in this town will be offended for not getting a ticket.
Yeah. I don't know if anybody will complain, right?
Okay, any other questions for our sergeant?
I appreciate foot patrols, I'm seeing them all the time, so.
Yeah.
It's great to have them on Main
So
Street.
thank you very much. I have observed that too. There's much more presence, and I think it gives a feeling of safety if nothing else. Good come out of it. It's important.
Yeah, I think we're making good connections and it's a good interdiction activity for us as well as community engagement. So yeah, that'll just continue through the year.
Yeah.
So,
Thank you very much. And
Okay.
carry on with your duty.
yes, off to the next. So thank you very much, Council. I appreciate your time. And again, if you do have any questions, please do reach out to me at the office. Or if at any point, I know, we're in elections this fall, correct?
Yes, totally, Councillor Sergeant.
Everybody's smiling now. When are those elections?
October the 20th precisely.
Okay, not that you're counting, but okay, we've got that, yeah. But, so I will meet with council one more time, at least before I don't know who's returning and who's rerunning, but, yeah, if there's anything at that point we want to carry forward or amend or change for this year, the year, that would be a good time to announce that. Just typically, when the new councils come in, they've got a lot on their plate, and sometimes the police and priorities take a back burner until the following year, so.
Thank you very much for
Okay.
your good services.
Thank you, have a good evening.
Thank you.
Mayor, I do have a comment about that. So, in other communities, it has been the sheriffs that cause the problems,
I know.
And like giving tickets for somebody driving down a back alley with leaves in a quad trailer, not on a road, having a ball on your hitch when you're parked. I could go on, but I won't. Like that level of stupidity. And I think the RCMP do a marvelous job of reflecting our goals in the application of the law. And the sheriffs, it seems like they drop in out of nowhere, and they're just there to get a quota, and it's always the stuff that drives people crazy, and it doesn't make the world better.
No,
That's the difference.
I
So,
don't disagree
Councillor
with
Brown, your comment about dialogue, we have that dialogue, every 2 months, and they beautifully reflect what we want, in my opinion. and there's zero dialogue with the sheriff, so maybe we should look into,
Well, I was going to say something. There is a meeting of Alberta Muni regarding policing if, in June sometime? Something, 11th or the 13th, anyway, around that time. And I'm going to go there. And it's in Pitcher Butte, correct? And I'm going to bring that aspect because not the first time we hear that. But now that they have authority to do their business in our towns wherever they please, I think you're correct. They should have, we should have a say also as to how much is good and how much is maybe not so good.
yeah, like families in Raymond crossing the street from where their residents to go to church, and there's no crosswalk sign there because transportation won't put one on, but the whole community has to get to church, and they're sitting there giving them tickets for,
Yeah, no, I
like,
mean,
that kind of stuff is just madness.
yeah,
Oh, and people have to pay those tickets? Like
of
they're
course they
legal?
do,
Oh, they'll go fight it and back the system up, so.
yeah.
You're sitting here with the RCMP guy.
Anyways, I appreciate that. Jeff, maybe if you make a little note somewhere regarding that meeting, and so I remember to bring that up.
You know, when you look at how many times they were in our community,
Yeah.
that's gold, right?
Yeah.
If they're on page 2 of being in our community with that size of font, that's beautiful. And the other guys, it's the opposite, right?
Yeah.
Their number is 0,
Never.
never.
Right. And so, yeah, there is something there that I will bring it up for whatever it's worth. I hope some other people
Why do we
will
always
have-
add that at the end of our comments with the provincial government?
Yeah.
For whatever it's
right.
worth.
Shall we carry on?
Yeah.
All right, under 5, bylaw and policy. Here it's a little something that is interesting. The library will forever drive us into new venture. Jeff, take it away.
Yeah, we bring this to you, council, to look at some amendments to the library board bylaw. Mary Lou has been doing some good work in trying to get things cleaned up. We had some correspondence. Shem has been also talking to libraries division, and the way we've been appointing members in the past is not acceptable to the current administration there. And there was some things that weren't congruent with the act, so we were doing things a little differently. The two things being is using some specific wording on appointment of members, so using the word appointed, explicitly putting their term, those types of things. And the second is, I think it might have been this council where we changed the bylaw to appoint the treasurer for
Yeah, it
for
was.
indefinitely, essentially. And municipal affairs said, you know, the Libraries Act says you can do 3-year terms, so you should make that a 3-year term. However, as a council, you can appoint them to as many 3-year terms as you would like. But you still should make it a 3-year term so that it's not just indefinite. And I think that's probably a good idea too. So there was 2 amendments we're proposing. One is that one gives the wording when we appoint new members, and the other is that that council can appoint pass a resolution stating a member may be appointed for more than 3 consecutive terms. And then, not to jump away from this, but the next one you'll see is tidying up the most recent appointments that were done last year and assigning their term
Yeah.
to do that appropriately. So municipal affairs was fine with everyone else on the board, but those last ones we did. The motion said council approves it was something that council approves the members of the library board as presented. And they said, well, they're not in the motion and it doesn't state their term, and all that's fair enough. So this will correct that as well.
Good. Councillor Kenley,
I was just gonna do first reading, if that's okay.
go ahead.
I'll move bylaw 1539E, first reading.
1539E, yeah.
Yep.
Okay, all in favor? Thank you. So I need a second. Councillor Court?
I will move second read for bylaw 1539E, the library board bylaw amendment.
Thank you. All in favor? Thank you. I need someone to allow.
Because I like doing these. I move that council allows third reading of bylaw 1539E, Library Board bylaw.
Okay, all in favor? Thank you. Now the last one. Councillor Kenny,
I'll move third and final reading for bylaw 1539E.
thank you. All in favor? Good. Thank you. Okay, the next one, let's fix it.
Yeah, so the next one at the bottom of that RFD is 4 resolutions there to fix that. Now, I just want to mention, you'll also be discussing board members in closed session, and the reason why some are and some aren't is these names have actually already been approved. You've decided whether or not they're appropriate board members, where you haven't made that decision on the ones in closed session. So I just wanted to point out why they were different.
Councillor
I don't-
Johnson?
Okay, I just want to question that with the mayor or with the town councillor, whoever sits there, their term actually is just yearly to October when you have the committee review again. It doesn't really go to December. It's not really a 3-year term. It's a year-to-year thing. Because it can change when you change when we have our committee reviews, it can change then. And so you're really only on a committee for 1 year at a time. So really, when it says Mayor Cronin, December 31st, 2025, it really should say October 2025.
Yeah, actually, it kind of makes sense.
I thought it was until we change it, not.
Yeah, it can be for the whole term of
Yeah.
council,
Yeah.
potentially.
It can be, but every year we have to approve that. At our
We only
committee
approve the changes.
reviews, we approve everyone to remain on their committees.
I might just and I agree with you, Councillor Jensen, about the December 31st. The practice has been that, and it's even in the bylaw, that terms will be January 30, or effective January 1st. So if we appointed someone today, they actually wouldn't be on until January 1st. But you also have a clause in the bylaw that says, I can't remember the exact wording, Shem, but it's essentially January 31st, or if council deems otherwise.
Yeah.
And so with Mary Lou, we met on this, and she says, I have no problem if council deems otherwise on appointments. She wasn't concerned if they were January 1 to December 31. So I think going forward, when we do the next org meeting, then we absolutely can do that,
Okay.
you know,
So
for that year.
We had a meeting yesterday, and so what came out of that discussion, to carry on with what Chef's saying, she feels that the reason it was done that way, 1st of January to the end, was essentially because the tracking was not thorough. But she said now she has a system to track when everybody's coming on and who will be off. So the way she wants it, which is allowed by our system, is that if council approve the appointment today, the 3 years starts today and not in January, because otherwise you appoint somebody that come on a board, but really they cannot vote, they cannot have a say until the 1st of January. So our bylaw changes that and allow us to do it differently.
Okay, and I'm okay with that. I understand that. I understand the tracking and that. So, but now my question is because we're in an election year, and
But I won't be
you
there.
will change if you don't
No, I won't
stay.
be
So
there.
you're not staying till December 31st. You would be finished in October or whatever. Is that correct?
Unless they want me as a member
I'm
at
just trying to
large.
clarify.
No, okay, that's the way they will do it. As far as I know, when council is over this year, those positions on all the committees are over,
Exactly.
right? All our
I meant
committees
they
are
go
over.
to October.
That's right. But that it goes according to what the other bylaw is, it is. So one way is whatever comes first. So it's no big deal. If they want me afterward, they have to present their name to council.
Unless you're still here.
Councillor, don't count your chickens. Councillor Kenley,
Can I make a motion for these?
please,
Can I lump those two together or no?
separate them.
even though they're the same term?
Mayor, I do have a question. I could ask it before or after his motion, either one.
Go ahead. Oh, sorry.
If
So-
it affects a motion, you may as well ask before.
That's what I thought. Jeff, the requirement for us to pass
Yeah.
a motion allowing for somebody to serve more than
Three terms.
3 terms
Correct.
is that necessary to do now? Like, are we past that? We're trying to fix something, or are we looking forward?
So
If it's looking forward, why don't we just deal with that when we get there instead of approve now?
municipal affairs will say that the bylaw that allowed Deb to serve this last term was not valid.
Appropriate.
Because it was in contravention of the Libraries Act.
Because she was past the 3.
Yeah.
So we're fixing what was
So fi-
before.
Yes, we're
Okay.
kind of retroactively
Yeah,
fixing
then I
in
would
a
support
way.
this, because I thought if we're just
Yeah,
thinking maybe in the future that'll happen, then we should wait, but.
yeah.
this-
No, they want
okay.
us to fix that up. So to your question, Councillor Kenley, just separate motions would be appreciated.
Cool. Okay, I'll move that Kelly Kennedy be appointed to the Town of Cardston Library Board for a term expiring December 31st, 2027.
It had a starting date? Yeah,
Yeah, no, it's
okay.
good.
All in favor? Thank you. Next. Councillor Bond?
I move that Faye Johansson be appointed to the Town of Cardston Library Board for a term expiring December 31st, 2027.
Okay. All in favor? Thank you very much. Councillor Granger?
I would move that Deborah Cahoon be allowed to serve more than 7 consecutive terms on the Town of Cardston Library Board.
Wow.
Sounds fun.
All in favor?
And say thank you.
Yeah, she's an institution, all right. And working
more.
hard for us. Councillor Jensen, is there one more?
Sure, yes. I make a motion to accept Deborah Cahoon be appointed to the Town of Cardston Library Board for a term expiring December 31st, 2025.
Yeah. All in favor? Thank you. All right, I think we fixed that. Thank you. All right, the next 5C, bylaw amendment 1647Q, land use bylaw.
So, Council, you've seen this once before. There was changes proposed to the land use bylaw relative to development in the flood fringe and the high-risk flood fringe. There was also a small change to allow for sea cans as discretionary in recreation. You'll recall the genesis for that. And so we would like to get first reading on the table, just so we can start the public hearing process and get that going. Councillor Burton and I were just speaking before the meeting. We do expect a few changes to some of the wording and a few little things in there, but there's, it'd be nice to get first reading on the table, and then we can start planning the public consultation.
Okay, Councillor Granger?
Got a couple of questions. I just got to find it. Just give me, coming up on it.
While he's looking, can I ask a question?
Please.
Why are, I think I know the answer. How come we're against allowing people to have sea cans like in their yards?
Ugly.
I know it's probably ugly, but I've just
Aesthetic.
been approached by a couple saying we'd like to make it into like a backyard, like a cut out the front wall, make it look nice, like a like a indoor thing in the backyard. I don't know.
So it's not really a sea can then, right, if they start.
I don't know. They've looked into it and it was just not allowed, so.
So at the time, so it was previous council, it was brought to previous council, asked that a gentleman came forward, asked that he wanted to put a sea can in his backyard. And at that time, and I'm not saying things haven't changed because maybe they have, but at that time, the council of the day, we were against it because we were seeing the struggle of people in just maintaining the yards that they had. And the concern was, now we're gonna throw this big, huge metal container in the back.
Just the storage.
Now what? So again, council of the day, I'm not saying going forward, but that's where it was at.
My question to that is, can anyone, if they're not able to, like, can anyone come ask for it? Like, say said person wants to do this in their back, I'm just asking, like, even though it's not allowed, like, can they come for an exception? I don't know what
You
that's
can
called.
request a variance under that bylaw, right?
Like, I'm not trying to.
Not in that case.
So
no.
there are 3 categories, if I could. There are 3 categories that it could be in. could be permitted, which means you just come in, get your permit and have one, discretionary, or that you can't have one. So if it's discretionary, then you can come in and you can say, here's what I propose. They could say, well, if you move it over there. But if it's not discretionary, if it's prohibited, then you can't. And a waiver is more like, if you wanted to put it 2 feet closer to the fence than was allowed, they might say, well, sure, go ahead. That's more of a relaxation, but to go from a no to a yes isn't a relaxation.
No, okay,
You'd have to rezone or change the zoning, one or the other.
cool, okay.
Councillor Crowe.
I think part of the problem was controlling it, how many there are gonna be in there. If that neighbor puts one in, why can't I have one? And all of a sudden you got everybody's, pointing at him, he's got one. So that was part of the problem, was controlling what kind they're gonna be, how ugly they are, and how many you're gonna throw in there. I know there are people in town that have them in their backyards now. You can't see them. But I guess if you don't stir the pot with them, then nobody can see them. But I really don't want to see sea cans out in somebody's front yard or side yard.
And there are zonings where it is discretionary, because I looked recently.
There's some right over here.
Okay,
All
cool,
right,
thank you.
are we okay with that?
Yep.
Okay, so now where are we at?
Counselor Granger.
Okay, so, section 28 of this, and it's on page 8 of ADM section. And I'll just quickly read so that says, Development Authority may request other information to be provided in support of an application for a development permit, including but not limited to professionally prepared site plans, landscaping plans, engineering studies, floodproofing measures, so it allows you to do that. The section above that, section 1, says that those kind of plans must be prepared by an Alberta land surveyor or a professional engineer. That's all good, okay? So later on, in section 14 of Schedule 2 R3, so find that. This thing is long, just bear with me, I gotta find it.
You're on the PDF, it's page 16, if you can see what page of the PDF you're on,
Yeah,
Neymar.
page 16 up above.
I don't see that. So anyway, a special requirement for lots 1 to 32, it says must be prepared by an Alberta land surveyor, but not the professional engineer that was referred to earlier. And then, as well in section 5, under flood damage, it also says Alberta land surveyor. So earlier we say professional engineer and/or a land surveyor, and then in the nitty-gritty of it, it just says land surveyor. Do you want it to say in those two spots also professional engineer?
So the intent of the section 14 is specific to those 32 lots in the flood fringe, and they're mostly concerned about elevation and the corners of the construction in relation to the riprap and the creek.
Okay.
So there is a little bit, it's very specific for 32 lots in town.
Yeah. But why wouldn't?
So it may be both. Can you cite the first section you mentioned to me, please?
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't
Yeah.
write that down.
And I had to write it all down, otherwise I would have got lost. So section 14 of Schedule 2 R3.
Yeah,
page
I got
5.
that
That's
one. What was
the
the
other one.
first one you gave me?
The first one was,
Yeah, so that section 14 is specifically on those 32 lots.
yeah, and then the other one was section 5. And then the overreaching one
Yep.
was section 28, ADM, page 8. So the earlier version says both professional engineer and land surveyor, whereas the two specific ones only say land surveyor, and I'm asking, why wouldn't you also have,
I see,
allow
yeah.
a professional engineer to prepare those plans in the two specific ones? That's my question.
Yep.
I don't know if it's an oversight or there's a reason.
So here's what I would say without diving super deep.
Yeah.
So, section 27, development permits, is talking about permits generally. So they may, and it's a may clause, you may be required to bring plans by an engineer, and you may be required to use a surveyor. The next schedule is saying, if you're in those 32 lots, you must use a surveyor.
Okay, but
So it's,
That's the right answer. And in fact, even on that, they don't lose, the MPC doesn't lose its discretion to have an engineer do it. You retain that discretion
Yeah.
in other conditions.
yeah, I just didn't know if it was an oversight or if there's a reason for it, because you can have a professional engineer who's schooled and versed in surveying, and he's a PEng. So why wouldn't you let that guy in on the two specific ones?
So if I may, I don't think you lose it because the one is a general provision, like
Yeah.
Jeff said, it's for everything that comes in the door.
Yeah.
In addition to that, if you're in those lots, here are some extra things that you know you're going to have to do because it's in the bylaw, it's not at the discretion of the MPC, I think is the answer. So in other words, the MPC doesn't lose its ability to say, and we want an engineer. In fact, it says right here that we can. That applies to these lots and every other lot.
Yeah.
And then when you get down to the 32 lots or however many there are,
it's a shall clause now, not a may.
right.
It's shall.
So it's specific to those and it's a shall. So that way, the developer or the buyer or whoever knows ahead of time, okay, I'm going to have to do these things because we already know they're in the floodplain. The other ones we're finding out, now we already know on these.
And likely either one would do. Like, I'm glad that it says, you know, and okay on the specifics that it's, you need one or other. At least we got something, right?
So if it were me, I would leave it up to the MPC of the day because they have the discretion to do all of what you're talking about.
Okay.
And we've added that they don't have discretion on those 32 lots because we know they're well into the floodplain. So
Yeah.
MPC, all we're doing is restricting
You're
MPC's,
inside of it.
we're restricting MPC's discretion
Yeah.
on those lots.
Okay.
One other thing, if I might, Mayor, on those lots, because I've sat in the last two MPC meetings, and one thing that's been really unique about those is those aren't conventional lots. And so it's really easy at the discretion of MPC to say, okay, Councillor Brown's house is 25 feet from the back setback, and it's 10 feet from the front, and so it's fine. But on those lots, they curve and they turn, and so why we've made it a shall is the exact points matter tremendously. Because, and then you have to MPC has to have some debate about where we're measuring from and exactly, because they're not straight fronts.
Yeah.
They
So
move
even
all
though
over.
the use of a land surveyor is a minimum, you're telling me that MCP, if they felt
MPC.
they needed an engineering examination of it, they could direct that developer, you get a PEng
Which we
as
did,
well.
which we did on one of these, so.
Yeah, okay.
We're
All
on
right,
that.
I just wanted to
Yeah.
be sure that we hadn't lost the engineering side,
Okay,
so, I'm
Councillor.
okay, thank you.
Thank you for the discussion. Councillor Brown?
I would like to make a motion for first reading on bylaw 1647Q, land use bylaw.
Thank you. All in favor? Thank you very much. All right, the next one is a donation policy review. I see Joshua has worked a little bit more extensively on it and has still some question possibly of us. Joshua, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Council. Based on the discussion last time about this issue, in this report, I just collected kind of the 4 key elements I think to, if you can, decide on, and then that would guide further amendment and hopefully have a draft in front of you soon here. So the first item deals with a time or budget-based system. So we've talked a lot about using deadlines and the difficulty therein. Certainly the discussion about not having a system that people could take advantage of just by being first in the door needs to be accounted for. So the way that would be done is to stagger the budget allowance, reducing it by half per half year. So first I might go and say, a suggestion was made that donations recurring should be separate from one time. So administration would certainly recommend that going forward. And the budget discussed in the first section here, the 18,000 would just be for one time. So that's based on a 10-year look. Average is about 17, so a little bit more. And then to say we will release 9 in the first half of the year and 9 in the second. And then you would also limit things according to an individual donation maximum of 5,000. So these are suggestions, they're recommendations, and then we could just discuss them one at a time.
I appreciate, Joshua, the work you've done on it. All those data that you provided us is very interesting. The 5,000, I don't think we give that too often.
No.
And so I think you've done a pretty good job at that. I like it, honestly. Yeah.
Good question. The 18,000 in your mind, is that cash contribution? I assume it is, not in kind.
It is both.
Oh, it is
And,
both.
we felt that was safe because when we looked at each year where in-kind was given a cash value, which is required by the policy, it was still that average.
Would it, if we were starting over, would we want cash to be
Okay.
one category and in-kind a completely different category with a different budget?
So if you, Councillor Burton, if you look at the next section, maybe, Joshua, can you maybe go into the next section, and then that might help us to go back to that idea. I know exactly where you're coming from, but go ahead.
Certainly, yeah. So cash versus in-kind was discussed last time as well. And council expressed concern that basing the value of the in-kind on the current fees didn't actually reflect the cost accurately. And that's perfectly warranted. The difficulty with kind of doing in-kind according to true cost is, while we have the data probably, it will take some time to get that together. And that would be an administrative function, as the Parks and Rec Committee doesn't have a set standard by which they have to follow to create a fee. So just the relationship there would need some work, the time to put together the cost-based fees. So as it stands right now, just to move this forward while this group is still at the table, we would propose to just continue as the current policy states, which is to value in kind according to current fees. Although we want to work toward cost-based for sure, and that's something we're doing anyway.
That can explain why it is not separated, is maybe
Yeah,
not your,
I think that's a good explanation.
yeah, it might not be your favorite, but
Yeah, it's not. So, when we budget and we figure out how much we're going to spend towards this, do we need to budget for things, in-kind donations that we know we're going to, or expect that we're going to give anyway? In other words, it's not cash coming in. Isn't it just kind of one of these things that accountants do? Whereas cash, there better be some dollars there to match whatever we're giving away, right? In my mind, those are two different accounting functions, and that's why I suggest if they could be different categories. We could budget $18,000 cash, for example, and deal with it. I really like your proposal there, but I wonder if we have to budget the same way for in-kind. For example, here's what could happen. We budget $9,000 for a half year. We have a bunch of people come in and we give them in-kind donations. Now we can't give any cash to the group that really needs $500 because we're over our $9,000 limit on in-kinds. And really what we wanted to do is say, wait a minute, it's only the cash that we're really concerned about running out of, because me running out of time to give away use of our auditorium is unlikely.
Okay.
That's kind of my thinking.
Yeah, I understand your thinking, but here is maybe a question for Joshua. Joshua, when you prepared those average that you did in that table that is there on the time/budget-based system, you accounted for all the in-kind donation inside there that you had valued at whatever it was at the time, didn't you?
All we could find, yeah. But it's entirely possible that some were missed as far as being able to gather that all up. Aaron did a great job, but no, that average includes in-kind values.
Okay, so my question now to go along with what Councillor Burton is proposing, we do not know really what the percentage of those amount represent in kind.
No, we don't, although we certainly could do some more work on that.
Because if we had that sense, maybe then we could look at it and say, okay, it's 18,000 altogether, but maybe 5,000 is represented by in-kind. And then that would be the way to separate them.
Well, Mayor, that could adjust the amount, so we might say, well, then in that case, 18 is whatever percentage higher than the average.
You see what
But I
I'm
don't think
saying?
it goes to the question of, should we treat it differently?
No, I
And I
understand
think
your
we should,
counting.
because, you know, when we have these junior high groups, and I know, ignore the school aspect for just a minute, but we have a junior high girl come in here, and she's willing to stand in front of us and say how she's more confident and everything. She can use my facility every day of the week. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
Because it doesn't, if the hard costs aren't killing us. Whereas if they came in, they say, hey, I want $5,000, okay, but now I'm out. To me, those are
Yeah.
apples and oranges.
Joshua, Councillor Kenley? Okay, go ahead.
Just, I can appreciate the distinction between, finite and, the infinite
Quasi-infinite.
existence of this room. The real need here is to settle on a limit that then council will stick to, because that has been the struggle. So certainly, we can separate that out and treat them differently, but I would absolutely like feedback on a budget and how we can stick within that budget.
Councillor Kenley?
I was just gonna add that, I mean, I'll just answer that question before I go into my other portion here. I think the 18,000 is fine if that's the average,
Yeah,
then
I think
you just
it's pretty good.
playing the averages, and I mean, you never know on a year-to-year basis, so
Yeah.
you just never know. I'm fine with that number. To Councillor Burton, I agree with him. I think that they should be two separate things. I think us as a council, we almost would prefer in-kind donations in a way, because it's not physical
Yeah.
cash that we're taxing the citizens, like our workers in town are
But
gonna get paid
already-
regardless if they go do some in-kind work. Obviously, they're gonna get, maybe not doing the project we want them to, but that, it's already paid for in a sense that like, so I think they should be treated separately. I think cash is king, and I think we need to have that cash, and I think they should be treated separately. I don't know who's gonna come up with how much it costs the town to go dig a hole for someone, or I don't know who's gonna figure that out, but I think they should be two separate things, and we should almost encourage in-kind things.
Okay, Councillor Brown?
Councillor Kenley said pretty much all I was gonna say. Although I don't wanna beg people to ask the town for things, I can't support that. But I would say that I like the distinction, and if the $18,000 is the number, I don't think it will be once we minus the amount of in-kind we've done, but I would like over a couple years, like you've done over a few years, you know how much was handed out and everything. I think I really like the distinction between how much cash and how much in kind. I think that is important to know, because then I'm happy to set the limits. I think that's totally fair.
I mean, right now, we know 18,000 included both, right?
Agreed, but I want it separate.
Yeah, I mean, we understand that concept, Councillor.
Just a specific,
Gold.
where would something like donating the pool to the grads fit in on this? It's not all in kind, and it's not all
Well, then,
cash out, so I just wonder where something of that would fit in all of this. Would that be cash out in kind?
Well, you have a portion that definitely needs to be a salary.
Sure. So any in-kind, we would definitely be careful, any salaries are captured there. And certainly schools will discuss when eligibility is before you, standards next time, for sure.
Yeah. All right.
Thank you for doing this. This helps immensely. I agree with the splitting the 9,000, the 18,000 total in two bits. I'm particularly glad to see your recommendations to separate the recurring donations from the what-ifs, the one-time onlys. That unmuddies the waters immensely. I'm pleased to see that. I mean, and we've got a pretty good list, and in essence, I think we're doing this anyway, the way we are dealing with some of those perennial ones in our budgeting, you know, the handy bus, the things like the Historic Society, the Agrodome with Heritage Days that we give them every year, and now recently the Friends of the Remington. And so I think that's a really, really good thing that we should be doing, and I would continue to support that.
Great.
Councillor Kenley, do you have something for Joshua too?
Yeah, I just forgot what I was gonna say.
Okay.
Councillor Jensen has one.
Councillor Jensen?
I just want to state that I liked it at the bottom that we budgeted, Jeff, to have that 2,500 over the 500. I think that's smart.
I'm coming
To
to
keep, you know, do we want to really know every,
True, that is not a
you know,
good
like
thing.
I trust Jeff to handle the money wisely, and I think 2,500 is a fair sum.
Councillor Burton, do you want to go ahead? And I want to ask something after
Thank you.
Joshua.
So two questions. On that issue of administration, that would be an aggregate of 2,500, right? We're not putting your limit at 2,500 per event.
No.
Or per request, I mean. That's an
Oh.
aggregate of 2,500.
Total allocated for the year.
It's just per
It's a
request.
limit per request.
Yeah.
When the money runs out,
Imagine
it's it.
somebody comes and say, they want,
So, yeah, so I get what they're saying. If it's not aggregate, then I wouldn't want to put that burden on
Agreed.
administration. Like, if it were, they can do up, for example, up to $500 for an aggregate, they can only spend half our money in $500 increments. I'm okay with that. But, you know, to have somebody come to Jeff, they get half our budget, and then the next guy says, well, Jeff, come on us, because you played Little League when you were little, and you wouldn't give it to the soccer guys, or whatever it is, like, right? Like, there's safety in the collective that there isn't in the one. And I'm not saying safety for the money, I'm saying safety for you.
Agreed.
That's my first comment. My second one is, the way I would determine these recurring one-time donations is if we're not required by law to pay it, it's a donation. Even if we're required to pay something, but the amount's up to us, I think that goes on this list. In other words, if it isn't a pure requisition where they give us a number and we write a check, if it's not that, then I would put it on this list. I'd be that inclusive.
Councillor Kenley, now you may as well go before you forget.
Well, I was just gonna say, aren't those just line items in our budget
They are.
ultimately?
The recurring ones.
Okay,
Well,
so,
sorry, I'm gonna continue. I know you wanna get your word out. I thought the whole thing with the CAO was, I just wanted the CAO to be able to, it's almost not, like the little things like we were just talking about the tables and chairs that someone requested, like, why does that have to come to council? Someone wants to use those, like things like that, where someone wants to use the facility for a theater, like, I don't want that decision to come to council. I just want him to be able to take care of
Yeah.
it.
And I was only talking about the cash portion.
I don't want
agree
the
if
cash
it's-
portion to be a issue, like, it could become an issue if we do that. I just want the things that, like, use the theater downstairs for
Yes.
a week. I don't wanna see that up here,
I agree.
personally.
One of the things, Counselor, the issues we've had, which I think will resolve through this process, hasn't been about the amount. It's been about that the application has not been compliant with the policy.
Okay, well, let's make
So
it
if somebody
compliant.
comes to me and says, I want 10 tables and 8 chairs, it's like dozens of dollars.
Yes.
At most, in kind. but they brought it to me less than 30 days before the event. It violates council's policy. I don't have the discretion to honor
Can we
it.
just change that policy?
So then I have
somehow?
to bring it to you for the variance, right? And so I agree, actually, and I appreciate the thought on the thresholds because it can put me in a weird space. But these have been more
Just- yeah.
qualification issues, not dollar ones. So I
It's
hope
not
we
the
tidy
cash
that
ones
up
I'm worried
too.
about, it's,
Okay.
yeah, anyway.
All right, so the question might be the 2,500 might be too high in your opinion. But I want to talk, if you don't mind, Joshua, regarding those recurring versus one-time donations. So the recurring one, for example, I'm thinking of the handy bus. My point of view should have a clause attached to that, which is accountability, come and report. And I also would add something else, and show an effort to make a fundraiser for your own organization. Don't rely 100% on the town to fill in the gap. Come and report as to what you have done for your organization.
Mayor, an example of what you're talking about is with the Ag Society and their lease, we're obligated to fix their structural things after they've exhausted their ability to collect grants for it. That
Yeah,
kind
I
of
mean
concept, is that what you're talking about?
fundraiser, whichever that is, it could be writing a grant.
How would you
It could be
monitor
s-
that, though? Like, how would you say, okay,
Well,
Little League, how many bake sales have you had?
No,
Like,
it's not even a big sale, it's trying to find a grant when they are available. If you know there is a grant, make an effort to write it, don't wait for the
That's
town
what we
to
did
make the
with the Ag
difference.
Society. We said, you have to have exhausted your grant.
That's what I think,
capacity.
it doesn't mean that they will be successful, but at least if I try, yes.
But I guess the question would be, why would whoever it is, Joe Blow, why would Joe Blow do that if council hasn't directed him to do so?
But
So-
this is why I think it should
Right?
be in
So
the
if-
writing inside there.
Agreed, that way, because I mean, I'm just thinking of FCSS and when, with that board, with, let's say, Epic donating, the money that's given to them, it was, we're giving you this money, but it's not going to be, let's say, this much for the next 100 years. Like, you need to be self-sufficient at some point, or whoever it is. It's not just Epic, but everybody. Make sure that you're doing your part, so when it comes to council and I see that you've tried and made $10 at a bake sale, when we know this community would support better, that's, the board of the day is gonna care.
Well, it's just
Agreed.
to show accountability. I think it's
An
tax
effort.
dollar,
Effort.
and when it comes to tax dollar, we should be accountable at all levels.
Agreed.
Just an opinion.
Joshua.
Yes, I
One more
appreciate that, Mayor. If I can, I'd like to provide some context to the CEO discretion because I don't think this is being understood as I intended it would be. So a dynamic I've seen, and I've seen council debate donations a lot. It is an item that ties up a lot of time at the table. And it is a relatively small matter
Budget.
with regard to everything the town has to deal with. The intent going forward with this policy is to make it as objective as possible. If it checks the box and you're here and you're under the limit, it's yours. So debating kind of the merits of the group or we're trying to take that out is the intention. Now, council can leave that in, but something that we've seen with regard to neutrality and examining how that is done effectively and not effectively is councils that are prepared with certain standards that they stick to in advance of requests seem to be protected. And so to treat donations in a similar way, you can donate to religious causes, as we discussed last time, political, any cause you want. But if the standards are objective enough, really anybody should be able to see if it meets the standards and approve the amount. That's the idea.
Okay, so council, how do you feel about this item then? Personally,
That's how I
I'm
feel
not.
too.
I mean, So it's the amount that bothers you, from what I understand. The amount is too high, in your opinion.
Well, when I made my comment, I was only referring about cash, not in kind. And we have a suggestion here that we raise the amount to 2,500, and maybe I didn't read it right, but
It was half of the 5,000.
what's our cap on one? So if $5,000 to one,
Yeah.
what was our one-time cap? 5,000?
Yeah,
Right, so somebody could come in and take a quarter of our annual budget or half of our other budget in one swoop. If they check the boxes, I don't know.
well, that has
I think
happened.
that would surprise us if it were gone in 48 hours and we had none left to,
Well,
I don't know.
I can tell you, it has happened. It has happened when we had some high school students who were working on a stock market kind of project, and the group in Cardston managed to be provincially the one who won.
My son was one of those kids.
Right, okay, well, there you go, you taught him well.
That's right.
And they had to go to Ottawa or somewhere, and they needed money like within a week. They needed a pile of money that they did not have. And we were more than glad to support them. It was not in the budget, by all means, it was not.
That's an
But it was a very large donation we had to make. And so, yes, at that point, what do? It's, in a flash, you have your budget dilapidated. Councillor Brown. And we didn't feel too bad about giving it to them in a flash, too.
I think, Joshua, I totally hear what you're saying, and your goal is to help us be better. Good for you. The hiccup, however.
Good luck.
No, but I mean, it's tricky, because you're all looking at me, we're all thinking the same thing. It's like the mayor just said, it's, those kids did not fit it. They missed the time frame. Like there was no checking of no boxes, but yet it was the right thing.
Had we
Right.
said no according to the way you vote,
Agreed.
Councillor.
You'd have voted against your son, my
We
friend.
would
I
not
know.
have given money to your son.
Wait, but you'd be wrong.
Right.
You'd be wrong.
And I would agree with you.
I agree. And so I'm just saying, I don't know how I feel about this. I definitely don't like raise the CAO approval limit to 1/2 of the maximum donation amount. I don't like that for sure. I think, I don't want to do that.
In 2 applications, the money's gone.
I agree. So I don't like that as far as that goes. The rest of it, I'm okay with, but I know you want us to stick to it. And I too want us to, because it's a huge frustration that we don't. I just think there has to be some,
Leeway.
yeah, but then that defeats the point of
I know.
this. So then
Right
that's
back to
ridiculous. So
restart,
then
back
why are
back-
we
we're back to
asking him
square
to
one
do the
again.
work? So I don't know. That's where I'm
Okay,
at.
Councillor, sometime you have to give a chance to something to work for a year, and then say to yourself, it doesn't work as well as we want, we need to tweak it.
Agreed.
But unless you give it a chance, give it a trial, give it a chance.
Well,
Councillor Kenley is getting a little hot under the
I'm
wings there.
good.
ooh.
I just with the money, like, I actually don't care if Jeff has that option. The money, the figure doesn't bother me as like it
Yeah.
bothers some of you. What bothers me is, do we want our CEO to have that pressure? That's my only.
To be clear, I'm not requesting those numbers.
Okay.
He's not even in the room. I'm just saying, I don't care about the number. Do we want our CEO to feel that pressure?
Okay, I think what Joshua is trying to say is, the role of council is not to pass hours discussing things that represent $20,000 out of a $3.5 million budget plus.
You're right.
right? So let's put things
good
into perspective, and that his perspective is say you council should be worried about the millions, never mind the 20,000. And what we were doing right now, we're worrying about the down 20,000 again.
I'm not comfortable with the 2,500 because 2 applications, half your money's gone. And when I hear our CAO say he's not comfortable with it, it tells me maybe it's not such a good idea.
I'm not asking for it.
No, I know, but no, you spoke even stronger than that. I don't want to burden the guy with that
Yeah, but-
responsibility. That's our responsibility, not the
Joshua is
CAO's.
trying to unburden us too.
Leave it at 500.
Make
Make
it
us more
5,000.
efficient.
Make it 1,000. Make it 1,000 or 1,200. We don't get a lot of asking for more than 2,000 or 3,000 bucks. So make it 1,000 or $1,200 and let Jeff do his thing and we can go on.
Okay,
Agreed.
And the last thing I wanted to say before you shut me off is,
That's an option.
turn off my mic.
would I do that,
Is-
Counselor?
How do we determine the list of the recurring ones? I think that's a more
We
interesting
pretty
challenge.
well have that list.
Yeah, we have a list to start with, and I think it's a good list.
Well, I made a suggestion earlier. Do you agree with that, or do you proposing something different?
What suggestion?
I said, if they can requisition us, period, then it's not on the list. But if it's not a pure requisition, if it's just that we've always done it, or they can give us a request and we always write the check, then that's in the other
Well,
list.
the ones that are on the list, they're not requisitions, they're donations. And so.
But we've
the ones that
treated,
are-
I've been sitting here over and again, when we treat something that's technically a donation as though it's a requisition, in fact, we even call it a requisition. So I'm just saying, if it's truly a requisition, it's in this pile. If it's not, it's in this pile.
To me, the requisition is what is the entity asking for?
There's only
Is it
one
a-
requisition.
You know, is it got legislation behind it? That's a
Requisition
requisition.
and require are the same root words of those two, so
Well,
Okay, you guys, can I just tell you something? The word
put a
requisition,
lid on it.
the word requisition can only be used once.
Chinook Foundation.
It's a Chinook. The rest does not exist.
That's my
So,
point.
What
need
we need
us
to,
for Josh?
what we need to worry about, never mind just the language, poor Joshua.
Great discussion, yeah.
But
Is it?
what I think we need to then make those organizations very well make aware, do not expect the money to be given unless you come to council and make at least a presentation and something.
and what are you doing yourselves, like grants or fundraising?
Right,
And I like
think.
your after-the-fact report, too.
And a report. And so that the handy bus this year came and said, we appreciate all what you have done for us. This is what we have tried to do. This is how much money we tried to raise. And we appreciate your $33,000 or $38,000 a year. Thank you. If you can add a couple thousand, we like it even better. That's exactly what I did. And we approved it. So are those the one that should be approved by council? Yeah, I think so, because those are fairly large. Those are quite large. I think maybe that is something that we need to kind of look at that might help Joshua too. The Agridome gets, what, about 10,000? 14,000? Okay. 14.
20 now.
So they're over $10,000, right?
We did that.
The handy bus is over 10,000. What is another one that is a large one?
Historical is 10.
Library.
The library. Well, the library, yeah,
The library.
Historical Society, what is it?
Is that a donation?
10?
10. And the library, we're talking,
They're over 10,000, too.
okay,
Five figures on
so-
that one, John.
We move on.
I feel like we're there now, aren't we?
so anything over 10,000 should be brought to council as to this is what we,
Budgeted items anyhow, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Their budget items. So we will invite them to come in October, November, and make a presentation to council. I think that will be a fair way to do it.
And similarly, the ones that we are aware of in the recurring list, they should be communicated with that you want more clarification to support their essentially application for the funds.
Well,
Like, what are you
it's-
doing for fundraising? What are you doing for grant applications? If you want, you know, use the Friends of the Remington, they want $5,000. They need to show us what they're doing. I agree with what you're saying, Mayor, but they need to know that in advance of getting on the budget list as a line item, as a recurring.
Yeah, so
Donation
between
approval.
October and December, October and the end of November, I would say it would be good for those group to come and do a presentation to council.
Agreed.
Does that help?
Very, very much, yes.
Okay,
Yes, yes.
all right, so now let's go back to that story of the $2,500, because I have not heard from all of you what is the upper limit you are comfortable with. Is $2,500 donation divided by half, $1,250, what you would feel comfortable with?
I want $1,000.
Instead of,
$1,000.
so how many want $1,000 as a minimum limit? 3.
Minimum?
Maximum, I'll go maximum.
Maximum. For Jeff,
For Jeff. Yeah.
1,003. I'm
So
sorry.
$1,250, but I'll live with 1,000.
Price is right.
So you're for, okay, well, that's it.
I said I'm fine with the number.
It's 1,000.
Okay.
Okay? All right, that's it, we're done? All right, thank you.
What comes back
Unfortunately-
to us next with this? Some kind of a policy?
You will have a policy.
Maybe.
A dog's breakfast policy?
Okay, guys. Okay, let's go with the important stuff now. Thank you, Joshua, for your work and for your
Yeah.
patience with this group. We're trying the best, you know. It does take a little bit of
Like
talking.
to see your pie chart of like how much you work.
Please don't develop nightmares on our count.
Cool.
Jeff, do you want to go ahead with the joint fire agreement? You understand, councillors, this is something that we already were private to many times.
So you've all seen this.
Okay.
I also, just for reference, the county and the village of Hillspring have had their council meetings this week and have approved their participation.
Yep.
So it's not to say your back is against the wall by any means, but this is something that's been a few years in the making. We're finally arriving at what looks to be a reasonable agreement. I'm sure there'll be things we learn along the way that we'll be amending from time to time, I have no doubt. So I'm treating 6A and 6B as far as a conversation similar. The one accompanies the other. You've already passed a level of service policy, so that's already done, and that will accompany it. So if there's no questions, administration does recommend approval of both documents.
Do you want to do them as separate
Oh, yes.
approval?
Yes, please.
That's what I thought.
I want to do that.
Councillor Court, Councillor Granger.
I would make a motion
Oh,
that we approve the joint fire agreement with the Cardston County. Is there a number on that? No, there's
No,
not.
no, it's
okay,
just an agreement.
Just
yeah.
the way it is. All in favor? Thank you. Do you have any questions?
I have a question
Maybe
about
call
the
questions.
second agreement.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering. Okay, do you want to go ahead?
So Jeff, a couple of questions, am I on?
Yeah,
So a couple of questions. Very quickly, 4.2
Okay, yep.
still needs to be fixed,
Oh, we don't have the one in there?
right?
yeah, it's missing
And
something,
then
you're right.
7.5, the word in this, the fourth word
Should
shall.
be inur,
Yes,
yes. So somebody spell check that, because spell check does not like inur.
right, no, it doesn't, it's no dictionary except
Yeah.
Black's Law Dictionary.
Yep. Okay.
So here's my question. We're transferring all our assets
Yeah,
for $2, okay? And some of those have liabilities coming with them, and it says in here that the transferee will assume the liabilities. And often you'll see a schedule of those liabilities. Are all the parties clear? I guess my question is, the county clear
I see
what
you're
those
saying.
liabilities are? And that, you know, they're not surprised, they don't come back to us and say, hey, I didn't know you still owed whatever on whatever it is.
So, good question. I believe all parties are at the table here feeling that everything is unencumbered. Although
That the case?
that is the case, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so
Okay.
everything on the schedule is unencumbered to the best
Okay.
of our, at least we're carrying no debt on anything.
Okay.
So,
So it says it, but
Yes.
the number is zero.
yes,
And then, second question, so they're getting our assets, the ones that, because it's from the town to them and from the two villages
Correct.
to the county.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the town's assets. So we're transferring them. I don't know what the aggregate value is, but it's some big number for $2. Does this agreement, and I didn't read through it carefully enough, but does it require them to use those assets for the duration of their life? So in other words, or something that, how long is this agreement for? So for example, you could say, okay, this is a one-year agreement. We get all those assets for $2 and then we sell them
Oh, I
and we're not
see.
providing your services anymore. There should be some duration of the service they provide that corresponds roughly with
The life of the
the life of
assets.
the assets we're
asset.
giving them for $2.
It kind of makes sense.
It's the life of the asset.
let me take that note, Councillor.
Or.
And we
that
have a
they-
voice because we're part of the governance of this body.
Well, I don't know if we are, but.
We are.
Okay, anyway, but let's say you had a truck that was worth $50,000 and we wanted to trade it in on a new one. It still has some life left. We'd want to just say that you're recapturing it in what you're buying next or whatever. Do you know what I mean? Like, and I don't think the county would ever do that, but you'd hate to enter a contract where they can sign it, get everything for $2, and then quit providing the service soon after with no consequence.
The county's not in this by
Okay, hold on a
themselves.
second,
And
Councillor.
maybe I don't need to ask the question, like maybe we've already answered that by having a vote or something, I don't know. Just a thought that the lawyer in
But
me
it's
asked.
a legal question, it's worth asking. Councillor Granger.
Well, I'll try and answer the question. I've got a comment and another question.
Okay.
So in answer to the question, because Councillor Brown and I have been involved in this since day one, when the consultant's report came in, and I've always been for this, is that there's a governance model. We're part of this. It's not, it makes sense that some entity, it's in the consultant's report, own the assets and manage them. We've agreed that's going to be the county, so we transfer what we've got over to them. But the county isn't alone. They don't get to make unilateral decisions because there's a governance aspect of this arrangement to the nth degree as well. So if they were going to abuse or misuse something with the assets, we have a say with our representation in the
that answers
governance.
the question.
Okay, so,
That's my answer to you.
yeah, so can we segue a little bit? Jeff, can you, or maybe you can remind us all, which are the governing bodies? There are two bodies, if I remember right.
Yep.
One that involved the CAO
Yep.
working together, and the other one working with town councillors.
Agreed.
Correct. So the governance body will look almost, I think, identical.
Yeah.
So two, and one.
They're saying.
Right.
Town,
Agreed.
county, villages.
Agreed.
Does that make sense?
So that
Okay.
remains in place. Oh, sorry, I just closed the screen. I didn't want to. So that's the joint governance committee.
Right.
And then there is an administrative side, which is Murray, well, the CAO, the town CAO, the county, and the fire chief.
Right,
The
Does it-
day-to-day
yeah.
operations.
Nope,
Yeah.
that makes sense.
Does that make sense,
Yep.
Councillor? Are you
Yeah, I'm good.
comfortable with that?
Yep.
Okay, good.
Okay.
All right,
So
go
the last
for
part
it.
of my comment is McGrath opted out. One day they will regret that.
Oh, well,
Mark my
there's not
words.
much we can do about
No,
that
no, I know.
part.
I just wanted to say that and get it off my chest. So my question is, and I'm in agreement with the transfer of the assets, but I raised this before, is if we're giving all the equipment and the trucks and everything over to the county, why wouldn't we give the building over and get it out of our hair? And I asked this question a couple months ago or a month and a half ago.
And we
Not
had
sure
an
that I got an
answer.
answer, or if I did, I didn't understand it, because I'm still sitting here thinking, why aren't we also giving the building, just because it's in town limits, why, if they got everything else, why wouldn't they get the building?
So I might not be able to give you that right answer because I believe it sat at the table that there was some discussion that's how we wanted to go. The county had proposed it, that the villages in the town would continue to have ownership of their buildings.
part of that
Because
was.
of liabilities?
Well, part of that was, but the other thing is in the agreement that the collective pays for improvements on the buildings.
Agreed.
So any improvements on the buildings are shared by the fire service. So it doesn't sit solely with the municipality. There was some complications such as existing agreements with Alberta Health and a few other things. They weren't major. They could have been overcome, certainly.
Could have overcome.
They could have been overcome.
Agreed.
It just, to my opinion, after that last time you brought it up, it didn't feel like the appetite around the table was to transfer that ownership, and the county wasn't looking to take it.
Agreed.
And
If
so,
they're gonna take a $800,000 fire truck, why wouldn't they take the building that it's housed in? I don't it's not logical to me. I'm not gonna vote against it, especially if the county, has made noises, if I can use that word, that they don't want it. But it doesn't sit right with me that they get everything but the building that everything sits in, sorry.
Okay. We hear your concern, Councillor.
I'll make another motion if you're
Please
ready.
go
for it.
I
ahead.
would like to make that motion.
Go
Can I
ahead.
make that?
It's all
Thank you.
yours.
I would like to make a motion to approval of the asset transfer agreement with Cardston County.
Okay.
Nope, I don't need to say that.
Councillors, are we done with the discussions?
I hope so.
All in favor? Thank you. Wow, we done good. All right.
Really.
Under 7, we have committee reports. And Councillor Jensen, I just will ask you, we don't see the minutes of your local FCSS meetings. Is there any reason why?
No, they should have been, I've been
Because they're not
forwarding
there.
them. They've been in. Our next meeting is the June 3rd or something. I've been
Okay.
handing them in to you.
Yeah, if we could have them, that would be great. All right, we have a,
I hand them all
Tara
in.
typically emails them to administration.
could you check, because we have the FCSS regional, but we don't have the local. Thanks. The CAO report, you have questions inside there regarding the golf course and the construction, et cetera. Do you want to address that a bit?
yeah, I put, Counselor Kenley's seen this, Counselor Court had texted me about getting an update, so I just included it as part of this, so where is it at right now? I talked to Dale again today, by the way, from Southwest Construction, so partly the kitchen has just delayed finalizing the drawings because of the HVAC, plumbing, and electrical requirements. So they needed some specifications on all the equipment that's gonna go in there to know what they were running and where. And then what the demand on the building would be and how much, so they're, yes. So that just was finished. So we worked with Dave Smith. He went to some manufacturers to find equipment. Those have put together the shop drawings for that equipment. They have it to Southwest. So we're just trying to tidy up all of the kitchen. And actually, some of the physical layout of the building is different because of changes that had to be made to the kitchen. So it wasn't just, is this stove how many watts? It was, where are we putting large air handlers? Is the exhaust big enough based on the size of the equipment now that we have, and is that sufficient? And we're moving where air handlers were sitting around the building, and just a number of things like that. So that's all tidying up now. I said in my report, it's going through code review right now, so they go and look at everything. Now they've changed sizes and doors and access points. They've got to go look at your occupancies and fire and all the code pieces, so it's doing code review right now. And it's slowly but surely moving forward, but the latest iteration of the drawings is included. That's why my report was 50 pages long. 40 of those are the plans. The other thing we're supposed to get tomorrow, I believe, is all the finishing specifications.
so that we agree before the contractors bid on it. So is it hardy siding, is it metal roof, we're not worrying about colors or the interior decoration yet, but we have to sign off on all of the finishing recommendations. So that's, Dale said that I should get that maybe even tomorrow.
Go ahead, Councillor.
Well, it has to be done by 2026, because the mayor put that in her
I saw
letter.
that.
Yeah,
get
that's
on it.
right. Yeah.
I loved that.
Do we have a date for shovels in the ground on that, on this one?
That's what I was wondering.
Next big hurdle is all the sub-trade quotes back to make sure we're still okay financially. So we have some discussion to have after we get that number back.
So in a good world, not a perfect world, when do you think we'll have shovels in the ground on this one?
I think this summer is still on the table. It depends on availability of all the trades, but I still think this summer is okay.
Councillor.
I don't have anything.
Okay, all right. So let's move on. Anything else you want to comment on your CAO report?
I don't think so, unless there's any questions.
Councillor Granger?
Two questions, Jeff, on the Main Street pre-design report. Have they given you a date as to when we will get a hard copy document to review?
I don't have a specific date with me. We'll talk about that a little bit in closed session too, but I don't have a specific date, no.
And then also on the wastewater treatment plant, in terms of, my question is similar to the golf course building.
Yeah.
When do we expect to have shovels in the ground for that?
So we are just doing, most of the design, system design is done, and we are just starting on the procurement contracts with DuPont for the media.
Yep.
Because that's gonna be probably the longest lead time, and then some of the big electrical components, so those are going, so how this works, council, just so you know, there's a couple of components because of the lead time, we're pulling out of the general contractor's scope. So we're saying, we want you to bid on this project, but by the way, this is what you're using here and here, because we ordered it a month ago, so that can start going. So we're just going through that piece right now, so that then they'll finish up the scope and we'll get it out to bid. So again, depending on contractor availability, I would hope late this fall.
Because I'm getting asked a
Sure.
lot.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So, okay,
Yeah.
that's the latest answer then. the
Yeah,
fall.
yeah.
Are we good, councillors? You have, under 8, you have any other questions for administration?
I just wanted to add a thing. I've been asked a few times, this is really minor, but with the spray park, I was just wondering why we open it so late.
Later than who?
The pool.
Well, it's not heated for one, so
I know,
the pool water's heated.
It's just, so why aren't we, it was just, why isn't it open? Of course, it's nice, everyone gets
Waterton's
upset.
open.
Anyways, Waterton's open, other places are open,
Yeah.
it's just one of those dumb things that's like,
Yeah, if-
people in town would love it to be open for May long weekend kind of thing. That, and I know it's cold, I get it. That's their choice to go there or not. It's not, it's just available. It's available to our taxpaying citizens to go. That and that it be open an hour earlier than it is, from 11 to 7 and not noon to 7. Just something simple. I agree with it, with little kids, and whether it's naps in the afternoon, want to take them before lunch, and they can have lunch down there. Just something an hour earlier every day would be awesome. And to have it open now.
So part of it is a water consumption issue, so that's your
Yes, that's
largest
what I
water
was going
consumer
to
in
say.
town. Once we run it, it's tens of thousands of meters of water. And so we're a little bit cautious about that. We try and keep that somewhat contained. We don't open any later than almost any other municipal spray park.
Agreed.
When we look at Fort McLeod, Lethbridge, Coaldale, Tabor, we're opening the same time as all of them. Now, if you as council want it open tomorrow, we'll fire it up. Those are just some of the reasons. We've just tried to be with whatever the normal municipal standard has been.
It's supposed to rain next week, don't worry about it.
Yeah, it's cold next week.
We're not recycling that water. That goes
No.
to sanitary?
Yeah.
We
Looked at it,
we more than looked at it.
yeah.
Yeah, it was unfortunate because and I want to be very careful here, but the person that sold it to us, they kept presenting council with, well, here's all it'll use, here's all the consumption will be in. And at the time I was like, there's just no way.
Yeah,
They're like, oh yeah, 8,000 meters a year is the max you'll do, and we're doing 30.
yeah.
Something crazy like that. And so that was not a great deal, but we weren't anxious about the recycling because now you have to do provincial water tests every day. And you gotta do chemical control every day. And you gotta go license the whole thing, and it was, if we didn't have raw water irrigation at the park, it would have been a more compelling discussion to recycle it and then dump it in irrigation.
Yeah.
But we already are fully connected to raw water in that park. So we weren't terribly motivated to go that way either. And the cost went up from a capital point of view quite a bit too.
Well, maybe one day we'll have to write and explain to the citizens why it is.
Blame the Rotarians.
Well, that too. 9B, no, let's go to correspondence, 9A. Tyler Gandam is with AB Muni. So as I told you, there's a conference in Pitcher Butte regarding that very item. So I want to go there, and I think, Jeff, you registered both of us to go there.
Yep.
So we're going to go there and make sure that we speak also about side issues of policing. 9B, Alberta Muni, the notice of LGFF funding. It is not in my packet, Jeff, but maybe it is on the screen.
The letter, Mayor?
Yeah, I just don't have it.
Oh, yeah,
So,
yeah, it's in the package for sure. We knew this number, this was
but the
known to us.
numbers, yeah, I kind of knew, thank you. The numbers are up a little bit.
Just know that in 2026, it's down
Yeah, right,
$98,000.
right. And so that is up, but it is all linked to how the province is doing. The province is doing okay. It's based on the 2 years before the actual year, correct?
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah.
I'd have to look at that for sure, but I
Yeah,
believe so.
I'm pretty sure it's 2 years before. So it will vary and it will fluctuate, but at least we will know. The last request is something that Jeff said we might want to lend our support to. It's a letter written by David Rist regarding the testing of the water up north. They are required to send a sample to Edmonton or to Calgary, the only two centers that will do those tests. And because of the location up north, it's horribly difficult for them to be able to be in compliance. Am I correct with all that?
Mm-hmm.
So what I'm trying to say is that we should really have two different centers, one that serves the south and one that serves the north, but better located. And I think there is merit in the asking. What do you feel? There is a letter there, there's a sample, and we could really have administration fill it on our behalf as support to those communities.
So I was just gonna make a motion of support.
Good.
Are we
Please
good?
go ahead.
So I would make a motion that we support the letter from David Rist for the,
Seeking support.
seeking support of the water samples. Do I need to read all of that? Yeah. Just a letter of support in regards to David Rist's letter to us.
Okay. Are you comfortable with that, councillors? All in favor? Thank you. All right, that concludes the public session.
I'd make a motion for a 5-minute break.
Thank you. All in favor? Thank you. And then you.
I had some questions, but it's too late now, so.
Oh,
Well,
I
you just
thought-
made a motion to adjourn,
I
but
didn't see your hand.
No, not adjourning, just a 5-minute break.
Okay, we'll take
be
a
back.
break. We'll get your
back.
questions before we go in closed session. Is that okay?
Yep.
Okay, this is why I asked on the 8th if you had questions.
I think you skipped that.
No, I didn't.
No, she said it.
Okay.
I
Sorry.
didn't.
Get,
Sorry.
doing food?
asked specifically if there was
I think I
questions.
thought you meant with what we were discussing, if
No,
we had any
when-
further questions.
No,
guess
when
not
there
unless
was
we order a
before
pizza.
correspondence, I asked
we
if
getting
you had
food?
questions.
I would guess not
before.
unless we order a pizza, is
Well,
my
I was
guess.
actually waiting too for the budget part too, but, but anyway, it's okay.
Well, when we come back, you can go ahead, okay?
Yeah, they're just little, there's nothing
Yeah,
serious.
well, this is why I asked on the 8th.
Let's make a motion to go back in.
I'm sorry.
I know, but are we gonna go?
No, okay, so that, absolutely right, I forgot.
Okay.
Okay, do you want to discuss the report?
That's what you said.
Okay, anything to discuss?
I don't think so.
Okay, all right, so much for that.
Did we make a motion to come back in?
No, we haven't done very much of anything. So,
Do we make
can
that
you
motion?
make a motion
Please, I would love to make a motion.
To reconvene.
to
Make a
reconvene?
motion to reconvene.
Okay, all in favor? Thank you. Now you all throwing me under the bus here. Okay, Councillor Jensen, you had questions. What are the questions?
I don't anymore. I talked to Jeff
Okay, all
and they're
right,
all
so,
solved.
no more.
Like I said, they were just little things.
Okay, so you're really throwing me under the bus. Okay, can we go in closed session, please?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you. All in favor? Thank you. Okay, wow.